Are you ready? Ready to go to the top of the mountain?
Ready, Freddie?
Ready?
Yes.
I am so glad to hear that, and I want to thank everybody for being on. We actually had 118 registered, so really, really pleased to have a lot of you on. And you know, I wanted to share with you some of the truths of what I've learned, and those truths allowed me to be successful. And one of the things I want to share with you is the biggest passion stealer. The biggest passion stealer. Hi, Audrey. Hi, Erin. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Carolyn. So glad to have everybody on. Hi, Natalie. The biggest passion stealer, the biggest, is what you choose to believe about yourself. And this, I know for sure, what you choose to believe about yourself. You are where you are because of what you choose to believe about yourself. Bingo, bongo, no other way about it. And before I made a decision to get out of the moan and groan society, because I was in the moan and groan society for a long time with my life, you know, I really felt invisible. I really felt invisible previous to becoming successful. You know, I had a rough childhood, and the truth is I wasn't a happy or enthusiastic or fun person at all. I grew up in an abusive home with an alcoholic mother and a father that was gone all the time. And I referred to it, and my brother and sister both refer to it as the war zone. We grew up in a war zone. You know, I lived in a feeling of fog, confusion, and drama every day, every day. I never knew what the day would bring, but no, I knew it wasn't going to be very good. I knew it wasn't going to be good. And living in this unknown with no emotional support, of course, it gave me an excuse, right, for not doing well in my life. I used it as an excuse, right, for not doing well in my life. So I didn't finish high school, and my only focus was to get out of my house. That was the only focus I had at that time. I got pregnant at 18, had a miscarriage, got married at 19, had my first child at 21, my second at 23, and I was just floating around. That's what I was doing. Floating around and miserable is what I was. And, you know, I'd become a caregiver and a yes person. You know, it was really important to me that people liked me. So what did I do? I agreed to everything, whether I felt like it or not. And there's no better way to be miserable than that. And, oh yes, did I say I was miserable? A few times. And my self-worth was zero. I had zero self-worth. You know, in 13 years, I had 13 jobs, and, you know, I never stayed at a job long enough for a vacation. And I remember thinking, you know, why was I even working? And I thought, well, the reason I went to work was to make money and to meet people, and we know that that rarely happens in the workforce. But I bought into the excuse that I didn't deserve better. That's the excuse I bought into. I was living that miserable existence and bought into the excuse that I didn't deserve better. And I bought into the belief, because of my circumstances, that I wasn't enough. I wasn't enough. And I never would be. That's where I was coming from. So my thinking was success would never happen for me. No matter what I was doing, I would never be successful. It would never happen for me. I hadn't graduated from high school. I didn't speak a second language. I only barely spoke English. And so my belief was success was for the lucky few. That was my belief system on success. And that success was for those exceptionally talented, educated, special people. That's who success was for. And I, for sure, was not one of them. So you could say that I had what we call the failure disease. I had what you call the failure disease. And there was no way around it. Deep down in my gut, though, I had a dream. I wanted to make a difference. And I wanted to be special, whatever that meant. I didn't know what that meant. But I knew that I didn't want to stay the same. I knew that. And, you know, I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's what I was. And I was tired of hurting myself and hurting my heart, because that's what lack of belief does. That's what thinking you're not enough does. That's what having low self-worth does. That's what not being successful at something you want to be successful does to you. It hurts yourself, and it hurts your self-worth, and it hurts your heart. So, you know, I wanted to change it. I wanted to change those self-defeating thoughts, the negative beliefs that I had. I wanted to change it. And I did. You know, we all know that I went from that person to a person that broke records, that made over $7 million and became #1 for 26 years. So how did I do it? How did I go from that person I just talked about and to a winner? How did I go to that? Well, let me just start and say I got a call from a consultant by the name of Louise Esterbrooks with Mary Kay. And I had been referred to her by my sister-in-law as someone that was looking for something where she could stay home and raise her children, which I was. And so she called me and made a decision to see me. And between the time that she'd made the decision to see me and the time that she came to my home, which was about 3 days, my self-worth was so low that I couldn't even pick up the phone to cancel the appointment. So what did I do? I went out. On purpose, I went out. Imagine. I went out. And she drove 45 minutes to see me. But my self-worth was so low that I could barely pick up the phone to talk to anyone, let alone cancel an appointment I'd already agreed to. But she was lovely. She called me back a second time, and she was very lovely. And she said, "I'm so sorry we didn't connect. Can we reschedule the appointment?" So I booked a second appointment to see her. And I called her, and I canceled that one. That was the second one. She called me a third time, is what she did. And if she hadn't called me a third time, my story would be very different today. And I share that with you because you need to know that 80% of the sales are made after the third call. They're made after the third call. You know, one of the things that I used to say to every person I spoke with, whether it be for a sales appointment or a recruiting appointment or a coffee appointment, if for some reason they couldn't see me, they called to cancel, I always said exactly what Louise had said to me. Can I call you back? Can I call you back at a later date? Which is what she said to me. I'm so sorry we didn't connect. Can I call you back at a later date? You need to learn to say those words. Can I call you back at a later date? And when they say yes, I then say, I will call you within the next 2 weeks. How would that be? So you get a yes from them, because I wouldn't be here if she hadn't done that. And I wouldn't be here if she hadn't called a third time. And what I've learned is many times to call a third time. And when I called somebody back, I said almost what she said to me. When somebody couldn't see me, didn't, for whatever reason, I always said, well, can I call you back at a later date? They said yes. I said, I'll call you within the next 2 weeks. How would that be? They'd say yes. And then I'd say, when I gave them a call, I'd say, hi, Audrey. It's Angie Stoker calling with Mary Kay. And I'm so sorry we didn't get together 2 weeks ago, but I'm calling you back as you'd asked me to do. I'm calling you back as you'd asked me to do, to make arrangements to get together, blah, 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 blah. So always call them back. Once you have the contact, don't lose it. Always say, can I call you back? Louise did that 3 times, and I've learned to do it over and over again. And when I read a book about sales one time, and it said 80% of the sales are made after the 3rd call, I thought, there you go. There you go. So we're leaving behind a lot of people if we're not doing that, and making our job so much harder than what it needs to be. But one of the things I remember is when Louise came to see me, there were 4 things she did that I remember that made the difference for me doing Mary Kay or not doing Mary Kay. The first thing she did is she built a picture, or she created a vision for me to grow into at the interview. She had a recruiting album that she went through that showed the prizes, awards and rewards, ribbons. It showed a summary sheet of the kind of money she was making. It showed that she had done 2 classes that week, and she'd done, and back then it was like about $650, 38 years ago. That was a lot. So it showed her profit was just over $300, and that she tied up 4 hours holding classes. So I was impressed. So she showed that. And she also had pictures of women that did the job, so I could see the quality of women that did Mary Kay. And showed, pictures of gifts and things like that. So she kind of built a picture and created a vision for me with that album. And as she was showing me all of it and going through it, I was becoming more and more excited. So that's the first thing she did. Because remember, I had no self-worth, I had 0 confidence, I could barely talk to someone on the phone, and didn't feel good about myself, didn't come from a great environment, certainly didn't come from a place where there was a lot of support. And so I had a long way to grow, and I had a long way to go. And one of the biggest things I learned is you can't finish if you don't start. Like, you got to begin. You got to begin to have an end, right? So she built this picture is what she did. The second thing she did, she showed me how to make money. She showed me how to make money. And she said, Angie, on a dollar, we make a dollar. Well, man, I got excited. And then she showed me how to make money. Asked me how many appointments I could comfortably do in a week if it took an hour and a half to hold an appointment, because she said some will be facials, some will be classes. So she showed me on what we call the perfect start, which is 5 appointments every 2 weeks, or 10 in a month. She showed me. And she said on 10 classes a month, and right now, of course, if you only did average, it's about $100 per class. So there were 4 people, and you did 10, that's $400 times 10, that's $4,000. Your profit is approximately $2,000 on that, and 10 classes times 2 hours is 20 hours. So, that's $100 per hour. That's pretty exciting. So she got me really enthusiastic about the kind of money I could make. And she didn't do a lot of wasted talking either. She was lovely. She looked lovely. She was lovely. She was very soft-spoken, but she stuck to her program. Didn't get off it. Started with the album, then showed the money. And the third thing she did is when I said, it looks great, but I didn't think I had the confidence to do it, she said something that I've used ever since then as well. And she said, I understand, Angie, but if we could teach you how, would you be willing to learn? I understand, but if we could teach you how, would you be willing to learn? She didn't go into a lot of crap or a lot of talking. She was very organized and didn't do a lot of wasted talking. I hear what you're saying, I understand, but if we could teach you how, even though you're unconfident, would you be willing to learn? And of course, the answer to that is always yes. The answer to that is always yes. You can overcome almost any objection with that statement. Someone that doesn't know anyone, I understand, but if we could teach you how to do this, not knowing anyone, would you be willing to learn? I'm afraid, I understand, but if I could teach you how to do this, even though you're afraid, would you be willing to learn? I don't have a car, I understand, but if we could teach you how to do it without a car, would you be willing to learn? So you can overcome almost any objection with those words. I understand, but if we could teach you how and put the objection in there, would you be willing to learn? You're going to get a yes. And then she said, how will you ever know what it could have been until you try, unless you try? There's no loss, she said. And then she said, if we could teach you how, would you be willing to learn? And I said, yes. And so she just passed me the application. She didn't call it any name at all. She just said, you fill this in. I'm going to look it over and ask you a couple questions. And it was very simple, is what it is. Very, very simple. And the fourth thing she did is she got me very, I could hardly wait to start by saying things like, when your kid arrives, it'll be just like Christmas. You're going to be so excited once you get started. You're going to really enjoy everything that I've shared with you. This is going to be a lot of fun. You know, things like that. And she never once talked in a way of me not doing it. She had such a positive assumption is what she had. And, you know, I walked away from the interview scared to death, but doing it because she was so positive about it. And she was so positive about the things that would happen for me. And that made a huge difference. You know, I've really learned that people buy, people book, people recruit because they like you. Because the first thing you're selling is yourself. And so I've learned from that interview, being called third time, and from all that she did, because I've analyzed it and looked at it so much since that interview, and I've adapted it all into what I did, and that made me very successful, because what she did was successful. Because when you can take someone from where I was to signing on the dotted line, that's a huge step. That's a huge step. And she was able to do it through those four things I talked about. So I signed on the dotted line, and not because I believed I could do it. I was scared to death, and I was so nervous. That's why I always say I was a scared, nervous beauty consultant. But the truth was, I wanted to get off the roller coaster of life. I wanted to get off the roller coaster of life and get on a clear path of moving forward. And I could see how. I could do that through all that she had explained. Through the 4 things that she had done, I could see how that could possibly happen. And I could see how by taking the training and using what I was taught, maybe, just maybe, I could achieve something in life. Maybe I could go from that unconfident, low self-worth person to a little bit more. Maybe I could bring more to society of who I could be, because I certainly wasn't bringing much to society at that time of who I was, I'll tell you that. So, of course, the first decision I made was to do it, but the second decision I made was to be willing, was to go to the training and use what they taught me. And that was a decision I made. You know, I made it at the very first training session I was at. I went in, I had my corduroy pants on, and I had a beige fisherman knit sweater. And, you know, I mean, I thought I looked like $1 million until I walked into the room and everybody was dressed in a business suit. And I realized I had a ways to go with image as well. And, but in the training, I was sitting in the room, and this gal with white hair walked in the room and across the front, and everybody jumped to their feet and gave her a round of applause. And I thought, well, she must be pretty important. And her name was Ann Newberry. And I remember that day, she taught one thing, only one thing, and she taught for 2 hours. And that one thing was booking. That's all she taught, was booking. Not another thing did she teach. Just booking, 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 booking. And I remember I had my scribbler and pen because the consultant said, bring a scribbler and pen, and I did. She sat on my right, and she never took a note. She had her scribbler and pen, but she never took a note. She just sat there. I wrote like crazy. The gal on the left of me talked to the girl next to her most of the time, and she's actually quite negative. And she, of course, she didn't take any notes. But I remember sitting there thinking, as Ann was teaching booking, I thought when they introduced her and they said her first check, her highest check was the last one she got, which was $6,000 for the month. That was 38 years ago, by the way. I remember thinking to myself, whatever she says, I'm doing it. Whatever she says, I'm doing it. Because she was successful, and I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be different. I wanted to be a better person in all ways. So I took all the notes and listened to what she had to say. And she taught 4 booking approaches. Took her 2 hours to do it. She taught selective date booking, tentative date booking, conversational booking. And I remember when she taught that, I thought, oh my gosh, these people talk to people they don't know. I can't believe that. And she taught second facial booking, those 4 booking approaches. And she explained them, and she role played them, and she explained them, and she role played them, and she said, you never need to use another booking approach. She said, use these. She said, go home, and she said, rewrite those notes. She said, say them to yourself in a tape recorder over and over again, and use them. And they'll take you anywhere you want to be. She said, people ask me how I got to where I am. She said, I got to where I am by being a great booker, she said, because everything comes about by booking. And I could hardly wait to get home and rewrite those notes. I was over the moon. because I had made a decision at that training that what I was willing. And what I meant by willing is I was willing to learn and willing to use what they were teaching. And I was going to get good at booking because that was going to take me anywhere I want to go. That's what she said. So, how do you become a record breaker? You become a record breaker, and I can tell you, by being willing to learn and willing to use what you learn, willing to do the work, willing to learn and willing to use what you learn by applying it to your work. You know, you just think if you just did what you were taught to do, how much further ahead you would be, right? If you were just did what the very top people taught, where would you be? And it's not too late. It's not too late. You can start right now, restart right now, right? So I took the training, and when my director said book 8 appointments to hold 5, even though I didn't feel like it, I did it. And why? Because I wanted to be successful. I wanted to achieve. And I knew if I wasn't going to make it here, I wasn't going to make it anywhere. Because there was nothing hard about what I'd learned to this point. Just to use the words that they taught. Use those booking approaches. When my director said, write down the script for booking your first appointments and make a list of 20 people. Make a list of 20 people that you know and write your script out and call them within the next 48 hours. I did it. Not because I felt like it. I was scared and I was afraid and I wasn't even sleeping at night. I was so afraid. But I did it because I knew if I didn't, I wouldn't be successful. You know, the script I used was the same script I've taught thousands and thousands of times to new people. And it just said, and my director taught it to me. Hi, Linda. It's Angie calling. I'm so excited. I just got started my own business as a Mary Kay beauty consultant, and I really need your help. Can you help me? Great. I'm required to book 8 classes over the next 2 weeks. I can see you Tuesday or Thursday. When would be best for you? Oh, and Linda, please invite 4 people, because when you do, that's what a class is. And that's going to help me. That's going to help me achieve my perfect start. And you will receive whatever it is that you're giving us hostess credit. That was the script I was taught. I wasn't smart enough to reinvent it. I wasn't smart enough to reinvent the wheel. I thought if she was the top person, which Ann was back then, and my director was #1 that year, so I was trained by the very top people, that's what they said, then that's what I was going to do. Because if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be successful. And I knew that. So I remember at my first training for new consultants, and my director taught that script, she also said, you need to know, she said, that you are not alone in this business. She said, I'm here for you. And if you are willing to learn and willing to work, if you are willing to learn and willing to work, I'm here for you, she said. And if you're not willing, you're wasting your time and my time, she said. I'll never forget that. And if you're not willing to learn and willing to do the work, you're wasting your time and my time and anyone else that you're seeking guidance from. You're just wasting everybody's time if you're not willing to learn and willing to apply it and do the work. And I remember thinking to myself, And then she said, winners are just people who did what others didn't want to do. She said, becoming a winner is pretty simple. You just do what other people aren't willing to do. And I thought, well, that sounds pretty simple to me. And then she said, to be an achiever, you've got to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. So I'd already made a decision that whatever they taught, I would do it. And I'd made a decision that I was willing. So I decided that what I was going to do was challenge myself to do one thing a day I didn't want to do. Just one thing a day I didn't want to do. Because I had a long way to grow and a long way to go. So I had to start in the beginning by being willing to do one thing a day I didn't want to do. Because I knew the only way to overcome fear and gain confidence was by doing what I was afraid of. It's the only way. And it's one of the main things that holds you back, right? Not willing to do what you need to do because you're afraid. It doesn't matter if you're afraid. Do it anyway. It doesn't matter. It's not a good enough reason not to do it. And how many years are we going to waste with fear when we know the only way to overcome fear and gain confidence is by doing what we're afraid of? And guess what happened by doing one thing a day I was afraid of and by being willing to use what they taught me? Well, my business exploded. It just exploded. And I went from nowhere to management in 9 months and nowhere to my first of 20 Cadillacs in 11 months. And within 2.5 years, I'd won my first top director trip. 2.5 years in the company, won my first top director trip. And I was number 2 director in the country in 2.5 years. And it was so simple because I'd made the decision that whatever they taught, I would apply it. And I would just do it. Whether I felt like it or not, I would just do it. I would trust what I was being taught. But I've learned that sometimes things can change very quickly, no matter how great things are. And some of you know, and some of you don't. But, you know, life has not always been great for me. But it doesn't matter. We all have obstacles and we all have challenges. What really matters is what you're going to do about it. You know, I'd been married to who I thought was the love of my life for 12 years. We had 2 beautiful young boys, and my husband was regional manager of the biggest toy company in the world. He made excellent money, great bonuses. He had an open-ended expense account, a free car. I was in a Cadillac, and we were only 31 years old. Wow. We were really living the dream, really living the dream. But then everything changed. Everything changed suddenly in the blink of an eye. I found out my husband loved me and many others, and I remember sitting in the corner of my bedroom, weeping, just weeping for 3 days in my pajamas. No shower, nothing. It was the most despair I'd ever felt. It was the lowest point in my life. And when I thought it couldn't get any tougher, I was notified by my lawyer that there was going to be a custody battle. There was going to be a custody battle. He didn't really want the children. He just wanted to make me suffer more. That's all. And when I won custody, he quit his job. He quit his job. Don't know where the money went. Back then, things weren't the best for women. He went bankrupt. I had a nervous breakdown. I mean, I was lost. I couldn't work. I could barely make any decisions. I went through my savings. And now, on top of everything, there was no money. I'm talking zero income. Because when you stop working for a long time, it's a zero income. I remember moving from my beautiful home to a rented, rundown duplex. The screen door in the front was half torn away. The floors were all linoleum, and there wasn't a room where the floors were not lifting. I remember the first night when I put my sons to bed, I could hear my youngest son, Neil, crying, and I went in and I looked at him with his big tear-filled eyes, and he said, "Mommy, are we poor now?" And I have to say, he lived in Thailand for 6 years, and he's just moved home with his Thai wife and son, and we were talking about this just the other day, as a matter of fact. You know, life can kick you around like a World Cup soccer ball. It really can. And your life can be changed in the blink of an eye. I learned that sometimes when something wonderful is about to happen, it sometimes can start with hardship, and it will always take work. But if I were to give you what I consider the single most useful bit of advice, it would be this. I've learned to expect trouble as an inevitable part of life. Expect there's going to be trouble and challenges and obstacles. Don't be shocked when it happens. And when it comes, hold your head high. Look at it squarely in the eye and say, I will be bigger than you. You cannot defeat me. You cannot defeat me. Well, when I finally came to my senses, I had a zero income. I had 13 unit members. I just moved to a new province, to a new city, and I had a decision to make. I had a decision to make. Was I going to keep thinking? Was I going to keep thinking and planning and analyzing and poor me, poor me, poor me? Was I going to stay a victim, or was I going to become a victor? Was I going to keep thinking about working, or was I going to, and pretending to be working, or was I going to go to work and stop pretending? You know, whenever you're going to make a decision, it means something has to change. Something has to change. What is the one thing that you're willing to change so you can be where you want to be? So you can be where you deserve to be? So you can be where you deserve to be. What's the one thing? You need to think about that, and you need to do that. You need to think about that, and you need to do it. Whatever that is. Remember, it's just changing one thing. It's always just one step, is what it is. You know, we've heard that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, back then, I had to get away from the insanity and stop doing the same thing over and over again. And I had to change one thing. Well, there was really two things that I was going to have to change. One was my attitude, and the other was my work habits. You know, I had to look at myself in the mirror and get honest with myself. What do I need to change? You know, am I in or am I out? I'm in. And if I'm in, I'm going up. But I can't go up being the way I was. I needed to change some things again. So I needed to change my attitude, and the other was my work habits. See, your attitude colors every aspect of your life. It's like your mind is a paintbrush. Your mind is a paintbrush, and it can paint everything in bright, vibrant colors, creating a masterpiece. Or it can make everything dark and dreary. It's your choice. Attitude is your choice. And of course, I was painting everything dark and dreary at that point. I mean, that's how you end up struggling in your business or struggling in life, is when you have put in your mind that things have got to be dark and dreary. And that's why they are. Remember, the one thing that we need to never forget is you become what you believe. And I've got that written on a little white card here because that is stuck on my wall. And I still have an office in my office. And when it gets ratty, I just replace it. But I've never forgot that. You become what you believe. Whatever you're choosing to believe is what's going to happen. And of course, I was struggling because that's what I chose to believe. I was struggling before I came into Mary Kay because that's what I chose to believe, right? And it's a choice. Remember, where your thoughts go, your behind will follow. Where your thoughts go, your behind will follow. You know, I've learned that you'll only be remembered for two things in life: the problems you've solved and the ones you create. Problems you've solved and the ones you create. In the presence of trouble, some people grow wings and others buy crutches. And I was on crutches is what I was. So what did I do? What did I do? What took me from a zero income to $5,000 a month in 3 months? A zero income to $10,000 a month in 12 months? A zero income to $20,000 a month in just over 2 years? What took me from zero production to $1.6 million in production in 1.5 years? And what took me from nowhere to national sales director in 2.5 years? What did it? Well, what did it was going back to the basics. Going back to the basics. What I said, I got my attitude right. I made up my mind. I made a decision again that I had to go to work, and I mean really work. And if I had to work, what did I need to do? Well, the program that I went back to was what took me many years before that from nowhere to Cadillac in 11 months, and that was the perfect start. 5 classes in 2 weeks, 10 classes in a month. And that's what did it. It's about selling, but first it's about booking. You got to get the bookings to get the sales. You got to find some way to get those sales, right? So it happens at the booking. So that's what it was for me. It was just always going back to the basics of the perfect 10, 5 classes every 2 weeks, 10 in a month. And, you know, being successful in direct sales is simple. And I can say that because I've restarted a business a couple of times. You know, I've been as high as you can go, and I've been as low as you can go. And I know that it's all about what you choose to believe, which is really about your attitude and about your work habits. What you choose to believe about yourself, what you're saying to yourself as far as attitude, and what are you doing? What kind of work are you putting in? It's about that more than it's about anything. You know, I've often said that I wish being successful was harder. Then it would give us a real reason not to be successful. But it's so easy. You know, how could you not be successful with a date book full of bookings? How could you not be successful selling a hockey sock full of product? Right? Everything comes from that. And of course, you're going to be successful when you're booking and selling because you're going to be recruiting. That's where the recruits are. And so I just decided, that's it. That's it. Second time, get out of the moan and groan society. You know, one of the things I learned, if you don't learn the lessons at the time, they're going to keep coming around in life and keep coming around. And I thought, I am not hitting a brick wall again. I have learned my lesson. You know, the number one thing that holds people back, it's what's in their head. It's what's in their head, because success takes place in the 6 inches between your ears. And remember, you get what you tolerate. You get what you tolerate. Don't accept anything but your best. But your best. You know, I learned that growth and success doesn't eliminate obstacles. It just creates new ones. It just creates new ones. Because God is always working on us and walking with us. And God never promised it would be easy. But he did say, Mark 9:24, all things are possible to him that believeth. All things are possible to him that believeth. I was a believer. Are you a believer? Are you a believer? I was a believer because I knew if I wasn't, I was going to be struggling for an awfully long time, and I didn't want to. We need to stop wasting time and make a decision today, right now. Make a decision to be solid like a rock. Know who you are and know that you are enough. Know who you are and know that you are enough, because you are. Believe, really believe you can be a success, and you will. And you will. I promise you that. Be willing to learn and be willing to work. Believe you can succeed, and you will succeed. You know, I could have made the decision to be willing to learn and willing to work and choose not to believe that I could be successful. And I can promise you, even though I was willing to learn and willing to work, I wouldn't have been successful without believing I could. Because we draw to us in direct proportion to what we believe. You become what you choose to believe. And that's why I used to say to myself before my feet hit the floor, and you know, even though I'm retired, I still do this. I used to say 2 things I am, such as I am a big time winner. I am selling a minimum of $3,000 a week. I am doing a medal every month. I am the best. I am a great recruiter. You know, whatever follows I am is like a boomerang. Means that you're sending that to the universe, and that's what's coming back. So pay attention to what's following I am. Start saying 2 things to yourself before your feet hit the floor every morning. 2 beautiful, wonderful, motivational, loving, caring things to yourself before your feet hit the floor. You know, you can win over and over again. I mean, really, truly have record-breaking success by believing better about yourself and by believing you can succeed. The how-to will always come to the person who believes she can do it. You never have to worry about how you're going to do it, because the how-to will find its way to the person who really, truly believes she can do it. You know, I wanted to share with you something, well, in just a minute, but one of the things I want to say is that success is different for everyone. You know, success means many wonderful, positive things. It really does. Success means personal prosperity, a fine home, vacations, travel, new things, financial security, giving your children maximum advantages. Success means winning, admiration, means leadership, means being looked up to by people in your business and social life. Success means freedom, freedom from worries, fears, frustrations, and failures. That's what success means to me. It means freedom from worries, fears, frustrations, and failures. That's what success means to me. To others, success means winning. You know, I've learned that every human being wants success. I've learned that by working with thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people. That every human being wants success, and everybody wants the best this life can deliver. Everybody wants that. So there is nothing magical or mystical about the power of belief or of confidence or of self-motivation or of financial security, of personal prosperity, of being successful, of winning, or of a great attitude. There's nothing magical or mystical about it. We can all have it. We can all have it. And of course, many of you know that I've had programs going on. Actually, I've had so many people contact me about it. So saying that, I've designed a program called The Possible Dream for those in management. And for those working towards management, the program is called Roadmap to Success. And these programs are really ideas and systems that work and that will help you acquire many success formulas and achieve everything you've always wanted. But if you want to know more, key onto my website. Many of you have my website at www.angiestoker.com and go to courses This is a 3-month program for you that are in management and for you called The Possible Dream. And it starts Wednesday, April 17th at 7:30. And for those that are working towards management, it's called the Roadmap to Success, which is April 28th, starts April 28th at 7:30. And along with this 3-month program, there's a blog, so you'll receive much information from me and many other ideas I'll be sending. And there'll be a web page for you as well. But I want to show you how to be epic. That's what I want to do. Not how to be mediocre, not how to fly below the radar. I want to teach you how to get to the top of the mountain because I know how to get there. And I know how simple it is. It is so, it's so much easier than struggling. It really is. I want to teach you to get past the failure disease. And I want to teach you how not just to begin, but how to finish on top. And I want to teach you much, much more. You know, for the first, I want to mention, for the first 50 to register, you're going to get a special surprise gift from me. And it is drop dead gorgeous. So go to my webpage so that you can get registered. And I feel that if a country girl with no high school education and probably one of the most likely people to be a record breaker can do what she did, then she has the ability and capability and knowledge and tools and ideas to take you there as well. And I would love to do that. So I want you to stop being a wishful thinker. Stop wasting your mental muscle dreaming of an effortless way to win success, because there's no such thing. We cannot become successful simply through luck. because success comes from doing those things and mastering those principles that produce success. And that's what this program is about. For managers, the possible dream, and for those that want to be in management, called the roadmap to success. You know, we become successful when we get in action, doing a few things that will make us successful. We build confidence and destroy fear by doing, by working, not by planning, not by thinking. Actually, it requires very little thought. You know, to use or to rise to the top in any occupation, any business, you get there because you have a superior attitude and have the good sense to apply yourself to the hard work and consistent activity and much more. But you need to know where to prioritize, what really is important and what is unimportant, how to get motivated, how to stay motivated. Most importantly, how to be the kind of, if you're in management, a leader that other people want to follow. So I want to teach you how to get up, get dressed, go out, and go to work effortlessly, doing effortless work. And I want you to get ready for epic success, because that's what you deserve to have. Does anyone have any questions? Anything they want to share? Anything they want to say? You're a quiet bunch.
Hello, Angie.
Hi, Ju.
Could you repeat the 4 booking approaches, please?
Selective date booking, tentative date booking, conversational booking, selective date booking, tentative date booking, conversational booking, and second facial booking. They've been around since this company started. And are you a consultant or are you a director, Ju?
Consultant.
Consultant, okay.
Yeah.
In the program, the Roadmap to Success that I'll be doing, the 3-month program every second week. It's every second week for an hour with me, on top of all the other things I shared. You're going to be learning all of that word for word for word, and you'll be role-playing it. But most importantly, you'll become a master booker, which is really, really important.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else? Anybody want to ask anything, share anything, say anything? Well, I want to say thank you. It was a pleasure having you on the call. I'm complimented by how many people are interested in learning more and being on this free webinar. The next webinar is Thursday, 7:30 tomorrow. It's called The Best Advice I Ever Heard. And I'll be explaining that to you. When you hear it, you're going to, holy cow. The best advice I ever heard, which really made a difference for me. And Sunday, March 31st at 7:30, it's called Tiny Habits for Huge Success. 3 simple, tiny habits that will help you become a huge success. That's on Sunday. So don't forget to go to my website, angiestoker.com. And if you're interested in being part of the first 50 people that register for the program, that would be great. So I can send you out a great gift. And does anyone else have anything? It looks like someone's trying to say something. Anybody else have anything they want to say or share? Anyway, love you guys. Have a great night. Oh.
Thank you, Angie.
From Pauline to everyone, thank you so much, Angie, for taking the time tonight to teach us all. You look, well, I'm assuming she's saying you look great. Thank you. Anyway, have a great night.
Good night, Angie. Thank you.
Good night. Look forward to sharing with you on our next free calls and having you on our programs. Good night.
Good night. God bless.
Good night.